We're just going to start off with your name and then your affiliation to GRTU.
Chris Jackson, owner of Action Angler and Outdoor Center fishing guide, and also on the board of Guadalupe River Trout Unlimited.
Dan Cohn, I own Castell Guide Service. Been guiding here on the Guadalupe since 2003. I am the Vice President of Fisheries for Guadalupe River Trout Unlimited.
I'm Jimbo Roberts. I have been a member of GRTU for about 40 years. I've been on a board member for over 20. I was VP of Fishery for about 10 before Dan was.
Patrick Ireland, Texas Parks and Wildlife Inland Fisheries, the District Supervisor for the San Marcos Austin region.
My name is Tiffany Yates and I own Green Outfitters. I've worked here since the year 2000, so 22 years. My affiliation with GRTU, I sit on the board of directors. We are a platinum sponsor of GRTU, and we are heavily involved in their youth camp and volunteer at a lot of their functions, including Trout Fest.
My name is Chris Johnson, and I am the State Council Chair for Trout Unlimited Texas, and I'm also the Conservation Chair for GRTU.
Tyler Manuel, Real Fly Fishing Adventures.
Wait, I'm John, Lone Star Fly Fishing, and this is Kelly, also Lone Star Fly Fishing. We live on the Guadalupe and guide here, and yeah, we love our fishery here.
I've been a fisherman since 5 or 6. Started fishing for bass and perch. Started fishing the Guadalupe when I was 7, 8, before there was even a lake. In fact, I walked around in the land that was underneath all the water right now.
Right.
We partner with Texas Parks and Wildlife. When they built the lake, it replaced the warm water fishery that was in the river. And the Texas legislature told Texas Parks and Wildlife they need to replace it with a suitable fishery for the public. And at the very beginning, they were having trouble with funds. They didn't have much in the way of funds and stuff like that. The first people that really helped them actually was Lone Star Beer and Mr. Jerzyk, who owned it. He had boat shows and extra trout, and they used those extra trout from the boat shows to put in the river to see if they'd make it. And sure enough, they lived just fine. And that was the beginning of the understanding that trout could survive in the river.
What do you believe Guadalupe Trout Unlimited and Texas Parks and Wildlife combined has brought to this upper part of the river, this tail race now?
In my opinion, I mean, I do believe that this fishery more or less is kind of a novelty. I mean, by Trout Unlimited and GRTU's partnership, it really allows for, you know, fishermen of all walks of life to enjoy this river, to, you know, see the beauty of it and use it as a resource. And I mean, I think through proper management and the stocking programs and all of that, we now have something that men, women, and kids can get out and enjoy at any time. And I do believe it's a very, very productive fishery.
This river is unique not only to this district, but to Texas as a whole, just this cold water tail race fishery. A lot of, it's been humming along for so many decades that a lot of the research, there's been a lot done already. So we're picking up kind of where that stuff is left off. Some of the things that have been looked at, obviously the temperature regime coming through, diet analyses, macroinvertebrate analyses, habitat assessments of, what's the habitat look like in this river. And those are the things that we can build upon. And that's kind of what my role is in this position, is moving forward for this tail race, is building upon what we already know and implementing some of that we've learned. I mean, GRTU has been our primary partner, and they are the guiding force with us working with them moving on this river. For one thing, they fund an intern for our office every year, and we always have that intern do a project on the Guadalupe River, so we'll have one this year. Obviously, we both jointly stock fish. That drives this fishery, stocking these rainbow trout every year. They funded and helped with temperature monitoring that we helped with them. They funded, I believe, this is before my time, but habitat analyses and a tracking study of trout in the river. So there's been numerous studies, and obviously GRTU was the impetus behind this flow agreement with the River Authority in terms of summertime flows and all that. So I mean, they are the driving force partner behind this tail race fishery.
Right.
GRTU was founded in '68, and we partner with Texas Parks and Wildlife to help manage the fishery. We do a tremendous amount of stocking ourselves. The partnership with Texas Parks and Wildlife involves a lot of things. We sponsor interns, we've sponsored bug studies, a lot of things that Texas Parks and Wildlife needs to know to understand the biology and the biomass that's in the river to make it productive.
Say, as far as sustaining or even making this a viable fishery, the first thing I would say is the stocking program. I mean, obviously we have temperatures to deal with on an annual basis. Then in the summertime, they're very, very extreme. I mean, we have 100-degree air temps here very regularly in the summer. Yet the water behind me holds trout like all year long. I mean, we've seen them in here all the time. But the stocking program to replenish the actual number of fish every year, I think, is probably the most important thing that GRTU does in terms of bolstering the fishery from a practical sense. From the kind of publicity sense, education, conservation, that's, I would say, the thing that GRTU does best, is that we really do have a very active group of anglers, a lot of people that are part of the chapter, and we do have a lot of funds that go directly to this fishery as well as fisheries abroad. Once the fish are stocked, obviously they're reared in a hatchery in Missouri, but once the fish are stocked, they really do a great job of adapting to the environment we have here. So, we have mayflies, caddisflies, midges. Stoneflies don't really play any measurable role in this river, but we have, a lot of your major insect species that play a very, very vital role in the trout's survival and even their ability to oversummer here in Central Texas.
As far as GRTU and TPWD starting this stretch of river, this cold water tail race, as we call it now, what do you think it's brought to the fly fishing community, but also to the guide services along the river, the local fly shops?
I think it's super important to the community, and not only that, I mean, this is the southernmost trout fishery in the United States, right? A lot of people think of Texas, they don't think of trout. And when people think of fly fishing, that's what they think of. They think of trout. So it's really nice that we have this here in Texas and in this beautiful landscape of the Texas Hill Country. I think that there's also, still a lot of misconception, although it is very crowded some days on the Guad. There's still quite a bit of misconception. We get a lot of phone calls saying, oh, well, there's no access on the Guadalupe River for people. It's all private, and that's really not true. You pay $10 to park at a campground, and you can access really the whole river. So I really think it's a great river to DIY. It's also a great river for people who are getting into fly fishing.
So, the one thing about the Guadalupe, it's a stock trout fishery, but when you really look into trout fishing in the United States, rainbow trout are native to the Pacific Basin. Not a lot of places where they are caught, the main game fish. Let's say Colorado, for example, rainbow trout are not native. Plenty of wild fish. When you get into freshwater fishing, a lot of it has been manipulated and influenced by humans. With the Guad, like she said, it's such a great way for people to get into fly fishing, to light that fire, and it's just, that's what I love the most about it, is it's just such, we can get so many different people out here fishing and catching trout, learning about it and getting inspired to go maybe fish elsewhere, do other stuff, and it's just such an amazing resource to have, in Central Texas.
My first fly fishing experience was on the river here. So my first trout, my first catch at all on a fly. So the Guad, means a lot to me. It's where I learned all things fly fishing and all things trout, because I didn't grow up going to any northern fisheries.
Do you know, like, at what rate the trout grow for the holdover trout in this river?
Oh man, that varies because of the food content. So, you know, what we've noticed with the feeding program is a lot of these holdover fish just kept bulking up very fast. Some of them were as big around as they were long. So you take that away and they're just eating the food that's available to them. That's a different growth rate.
Yeah. We get a lot of comments on the
Right.
size of our fish. I mean,
Exactly.
they're big fish. I mean,
Yeah.
there's that fish that rose just a second ago was probably a 20-inch fish, or 18 to 20. That's a big trout anywhere you go. And so in Texas, it's just crazy to see that, you know, we've got fish that big right there. GRTU has kind of probably put the fishery on the map a little bit more so from the larger fish aspect, where you've got these really big fish that, you know, are getting dumped in the river. But those larger fish, their stamina allows them, and from just our anecdotal evidence, it seems to help them over summer. And they also avoid predation that way from striper, which we have in the river, as well as a lot of aerial predators like ospreys and things like that.
I'm always completely surprised by the amount of holdovers. And I don't know all the statistics on the holdover rate or the spawning rate or even the growth rate. I just know it just continues to just get better and better each year. You know, they are holding over and they are spawning, and it's super exciting because, I mean, when you think about what is happening and you're bringing this trout into central Texas, you know, it almost seems like an impossible thing.
You will have some trico hatches
Okay.
early in the morning where you'll see fish up, or you will see in the evenings the caddis hatches. Those are the ones where you'll really see fish more towards the surface. A lot of it, though, are the parks and wildlife fish. The whole thought there over the years has been the osprey. We have a ton of osprey that winter over on this river.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon to catch one of trout that has talon scars on its back. You know, it had a near miss. So those fish, you know, they don't want to expose themselves to the surface.
As far as what makes this river challenging, I tell this to my clients a lot. I think that it being a small stretch of river where there's trout, you know, they stock the first 12 miles of river below the dam, it gets fished pretty heavily. I think the fishing pressure really makes it a challenging river. You know, any given day, a specific section of river on a Saturday, for example, peak trout season could see 20, 30 anglers, right?
Right.
So these trout are seeing a lot of flies, and sure, maybe the first few days after they're stocked, they're easy to catch.
Exactly.
But come out there, you know, a few months after they've been stocked, it's not so easy. They're eating any other bugs you would fish in, you know, another tailwater. They're eating little stuff. Some people don't even think there's hatches on the Guad. That's what I think makes it challenging. Mainly the fishing pressure, and at the end of the day, it's trout fishing, right? When the fish wise up and they're in the river, they're doing what trout do. They're sitting in pockets. They're eating bugs that are hatching.
Do you think, like, the holdovers and you know, sometimes the stalkers, do you think they key in on hatches as well?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You'll see them, like, if we went out there like 4:35, 5:30, you'll see them busting all over the top, and like
Yeah.
stuff you're throwing subsurface, they won't even look at, and then you
Yeah.
gotta switch to some dries.
There's certain characteristics to any tailwater. You want to have your midges. You're going to have your betas.
Right.
You know, for us to see, you know, you don't see a whole lot of trout streams where you can fish a Helgramite pattern.
Right.
So that's one that, you know, is unique here. And even though we may throw stonefly patterns, you know, the profile is close enough that, you know, it can be taken as that Helgramite.
Right.
But you know, yes, I have a lot of my tailwater boxes from out west that I can bring directly over here. The boxes cross over very well. I can take my, you know, a lot of my boxes from here and just have to modify them very slightly. And it's more this, I may go smaller, I may go bigger, just, you know, you're trying to, you know,
Right.
keep in what that particular stream is going to be.
So aside from the seasonal changes in weather, what do you think is one of the best things for the people to practice to protect the fishery from winter to, every season through summer and things like that?
Yeah, just educate themselves on what's going on here, and understanding how delicate a trout is, and leave the fish in the water. Try not to handle it too much, and just understand that if you don't leave the fish in the river, then there won't be any fish to be caught. So.
How important is it for catch and release in this river?
It's very important because we don't have a whole lot of natural reproduction and recruitment. We have problems with siltation in the river. We do have fish that are spawning out there. You might have seen some of the reds that have been in the river. They're bright spots. Fish will get in there and they'll do their job. They'll lay the eggs and they'll fertilize them. But a lot of those eggs don't make it to a catchable size fish. That's what you call recruitment, from an egg to a catchable size fish. And that's mainly because the siltation kills some of the eggs. Also, we have a lot of predation by perch and crawfish, and just the small fish growing up. There's a lot of bass and other things that eat them. We have trouble getting those fertilized eggs to a catchable size fish.
And as far as the catch release aspect of it, there are parts of the river, where the fish will die every summer, but a lot more of them survive year round than people think, especially that first 7 to 8 mile range of the, below the dam. And would they, they even spawn, reproduce a little bit. Would it be the same fishery if they stopped stocking trout? Definitely not. But, I'll see people all the time, they all die in the summer. That's far from true. Like we do
exactly
20, 30 trips in mid-October to early November to catch these trout that survive year round. Like it's definitely, a lot of misconceptions there.
Catch release is a critical component because it is, these fish, we may have a little bit of reproduction, but by and large, what we put in is what goes in there. And there is year to year a lot of holdovers, fish that survive the summer and make it through. And so keeping those going, that's critical to making sure those fish are available for other anglers, but also allowing them to grow. And you can't deny the fact that Texas is changing. A lot of more people are entering the state. There's just more anglers, and so that's just more pressure. So having catch and release and makes these fish more available to new anglers coming out.
I think it's critical, and it's not just here, and it's not just in the trout fisheries. It's across the board. Texas in general, if you think about, we have this year over 30 million people in Texas, expected to be over 50 million people by 2050. Well, we're not gaining any waterways, so you're gonna add 20 million people. The only way to still have a good fishery for future generations is that we practice catch and release and conservation. I mean, it just allows them to stay and to reproduce. It is so critical in all areas of fishing, I think.
How can we be better anglers to each other, this river, and to other rivers in Texas?
Really, it comes about just honoring, the environment and one another. I would really think that as anglers, the number one thing we can do is cherish the resource, but also, you hear some stuff that goes on here, especially just because there's so many anglers that are in one spot at one time. You've got public anglers coming in, you've got lease members coming in, you've got guides guiding the river. There's a lot of people on this river at any one given time. And the fact of the matter is, I think one of my dear friends, he's since passed, Bill Higdon, said it best. It's at the end of the day, it's just fishing. And so, we just need to honor one another, and don't treat people like you want to be treated. Treat them better than you want to be treated. Pick up trash on your way out. You're not the only one that fishes the river, so make sure you clean up that mess too. I mean, even if it's not yours to clean up, it's still rivers that you enjoy and want to keep beautiful.
How important is it for young anglers, college anglers like us, to be involved in fly fishing?
For me, fly fishing has made a huge impact on my life. It's like having a purpose and give yourself meaning. What that to me is like the key to a successful life, is having like purpose, something that you're excited about getting up in the morning.
Young people whether it's fly fishing or not, fly fishing is a great example. Getting your kid outside, college age people, getting outside, being in nature, better than going to a bar. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're gonna make better connections outside in nature, face to face, than you are on social media, than you are at a bar. So it's beneficial to you as a person, right? You're building character, you're being out in nature, and like I said, that experience is way more valuable than anything you're going to be doing indoors, in my opinion.
If you expose yourself to this at an early age, you might actually see the trajectory of your career changing, right? I mean, looking back, I'm in my 40s, but I think had I fly fished and understood conservation as a very young person, I might have changed my college degree or my career path, right? So I think that's really important. For the really young ones, the amazing amount of screen time that they have every day, like getting involved in fishing, and not necessarily fly fishing, but just fishing, just getting outside and being on the river, because so many young people don't have access to that nowadays, like maybe I did as a kid, or and so I think it's so important for young people to just be exposed. If they can just be exposed and see what it's like, and see if it's a direction that they want to go in, and just to spend that time on the water to kind of create a sense of calm and peace in their lives sometimes, you know?
The next generation really is our future. I really believe that. That's one of the things that, as a fly shop owner, I really do want to invest in and try to invest in through our events and keeping those free, and, you know, fly tying nights on Wednesday nights and things like that we do at Living Waters that make a really big difference in having some of the younger generation doesn't necessarily want to do all the pay-to-play stuff and come all the time. And for me, I think having folks get involved here, put boots in the water. I mean, number one thing you can do as, you know, high schooler, college age kid, younger, hopefully parents are taking their kids to do this, but even if you're, you know, on your own independent doing this, get your boots in the water, catch you a few fish, fall in love with it. And I mean, honestly, it's something that if you learn it, and even learn it moderately well, you'll never let it down.
How the future of this river looks, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I think it looks fine, but there's so many, you know, I don't know 50 years from now what time scale we're looking at, how climate, you know, will the water flows change or whatnot, but having Canyon Reservoir, a cold water discharge lake upstream, that should persist, you know, moving forward and humming along. You know, using our management techniques and working with GRTU, hopefully we can keep fine tuning what we're doing, and, you know, to keep this thing, you know, maybe even increasing in productivity, but at least humming along.
I'll always have a heart for the Guadalupe because it's the basis of everything I know fly fishing. It's my escape when things are crazy and you just need to get away. You can go to the river and it's peace and quiet.